Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Chase. Nice to have you back for this week's video. We'll be covering Bitcoin, Ethereum. We'll go over some high time frame stuff, a little low time frame stuff, and then we will talk about how to maximize your crypto Twitter experience. You know, reducing noise, increasing signal, things of that nature. That'll be the topic of discussion for today. And as always, a big shout out to Prime XBT for sponsoring these videos. Check out my links at the bottom. Give them a try. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so if we briefly zoom out on Bitcoin and then we briefly zoom out on ETH, we can see that I have the ranges marked up in the same way. Okay, so we have the low, we have the high, range low, range high. Okay, range low, range high, easy enough. We could see we came up to the high, we flipped it to support. If we want to talk about that real quick, this was a trade that I took live on CT. It was, I believe, this wick right here was where we got in. And I had marked out a basically previous untested demand. So you had demand here, right? And then it was only tested somewhat, right? Because we can see wick, right? So demand level here, we can see wick, but not fully tested. Okay, a full test is this right here. So this is what I wanted, because if you know how bullish situations work, when the market is quote unquote very bullish, as I see it, you're not gonna get sweeps of the low like you want, or like some people play for, and liquidity wise, right? You're not gonna get sweeps. What you're going to get is you're gonna get a front run of those sweeps right into the previous demand level. Okay, so we can see the demand level right there, bounces off there, called this one live, closed it at 45.3K, the exact top before we moved up over here, but we'll talk about that soon. Okay, so and also just if you happen to zoom out, you would have seen that level, that level was essentially just the top of the range, right? It front ran it a little bit. That's pretty much the top of the range, or it was the top of the range. I think it's this candle. Yeah, it was this candle right here. So basically, even if you weren't on the super, low time frame, 15 minute, 5 minute, or whatever to spot that demand level, you could have just played the SR flip of the range high. Okay, really that simple. Okay, now we'll mark out just how did I pick the target. Target was simple, just right up to the void. Okay, this is all, sort of inefficient price action, straight down. So when you go straight down, you typically go straight up. It went right to target. Okay, we wicked down, we got filled, and we went straight to target within within two 12 hours candles. Within a day we went there. Okay, so now we got the next void. If we're working into here and the next void is here, then we pretty much go straight to 49K if this isn't a deviation, which my gut tells me that this move felt a little weird. I just thought, I mean, look, it could be my bias completely, because I thought, I hit my target to the pip perfectly, right? Like perfect entry, perfect target hit, perfect retracement. So when I see something like that, I'm like, I played this move perfectly, and then I see this fly past and sort of do a rounded top here, looking a bit like a deviation, although it is reclaiming now after just sweeping this low. So we'll keep an eye on that, right? But ultimately, I think if we consolidate in here and, let's say we flip, if we flip this area up here toward, you sort of have like a range forming in here, right? If you flip this to support and we do start, moving up in a more bullish fashion, say we reject, we flip, maybe you try a long off that, but I don't know. These have not been very reliable lately to do these and then go on the lower time frame, at least in my opinion. What you're usually getting is like, okay, you think it's gonna flip, but then it comes back and it like hits the previous demand, right? And then it goes. So that's ultimately what I would probably be looking for. I think if it looks really bullish, and that's what happened in here too, right? Look at this, and you'll see what I'm saying. So I thought this was sort of SR flipping, and I was like, you know what? I'm not playing this because lately these have been doing this, right? They do the flip, and then they come back and they test the previous demand. Okay, so that could be how this one works out. It could do the flip. You think it's going, comes back, tests previous demand. Okay, previous demand here. and then it goes to target. So that's probably what I would personally be looking for, and you could typically play that with a pretty tight stop. So if it looks strong, you play for the nuke and you go to the next target. Okay, I think that works for that. Let's zoom back out. Hopefully that explains a bit about this trade and the mentality there, and sort of the mentality on this up move. We're not necessarily looking for sweeps. We're more or less looking for previous demand, but also you don't want to be FOMOing necessarily into breakouts, because when you FOMO into breakouts, you typically get pushed out on a wick down, but the wick down isn't necessarily a liquidity sweep, although it's to shake these guys out. It's to shake out the breakout longers, but it hits demand. You're still pretty much safe if you're in from demand. Okay, so I'll be watching that. Hopefully that makes sense. To the downside, if we were to see any type of major downside, if this is a deviation here and we come back down and we flip 45.3 back to resistance, and say we start distributing down, I mean, you have multiple levels in here, right? This is one to watch right around 40.5k, 41k. We watch around there. You probably get something. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the level to buy just yet, though. Let's look at the lower time frame. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it pulled back to high 39s. I mean, typically, because if you're going to get a pullback in here, right, if you're going to get a major pullback, you're also going to get some liquidations. So if it is a liquidation wick, I've talked about this before. Your liquidation wick is typically, you'll get like a wick through, right? So just say it distributes, right? I'm not predicting this, but just say it does distribute. If you buy right here, it might be okay, but what most likely happens, I think, is you get a bit of a little extra liquidation wick is typically what happens, and then on the second test of the level, you can typically get a really good buy, or whether that level is there or whether that level is here, right? You can let that wick go through, and then it reclaims it, and right on that reclaim on like the 5 minute or the 15, you're good to go getting in at that point. So you can keep an eye on that if it's one of those quote unquote even like a lower time frame capitulative moment. That's what you can watch for. Okay, going down even further, if we were to distribute more and you filled this whole sort of void area right here, we can see this sort of inefficient move up. It would probably be all the way back down, inefficient move down, and you'd fill into here. You would watch probably this low. If it did sweep this low and reclaim something like this, that's probably a long off of here. This could be a blind long, most likely just off this level. I think if we lose this level, if we go through here, again, you could get a little liquidation wick, but you want to leave yourself some room on the stop. If we get in at this level, then cool, it should go. Not sure on target yet. You'd have to see how this develops. If this comes right down, you could probably target high again, but if this does just some, choppy thing and we do a lot of this, then, you're going to have to target, somewhere in here or something. You're not going to necessarily get to do like a 50K target right away. And if this does break down and we lose this, then I don't like the look of that, because if we test this level again, it feels like this level is going to break. But right now, that's not really on my mind. I do feel like we're sort of still pretty strong up here. We broke out of the range. We pushed straight through the void. We're now attempting to flip this level. It's not looking the best just yet, to be honest, but we'll see. And if it can push it, then once again, straight through the void, straight to about 49K. Okay, let's look at Ethereum. So Ethereum, sort of the same thing, right? We got a low. I got to remember to stop slamming my bottle. One time I listened back and I was like, oh boy, that makes a loud sound on the desk. Even though it's not loud to me, I'm sure it's loud to you guys, so sorry about that. So a low, a high, sort of got your mid-range here. And obviously you have your daily demand in a major way right here. I've been saying for a while, I think red box is a sell area. I took a tad off some of what I wanted to sell at 32.30ish, right around here. Just about like, we've talked about this many times. What I wanted to sell, I already sold in this area from 3.5K to 4.2K or so. So I'm not really interested in selling a whole lot more spot. I've just been doing just selling a little bit more. Nothing crazy though. I'm still keeping a decently a longer term bag. Like I said, I sold what I wanted to up here, and if this red box flips back to support, then I'm going to be pretty bullish overall and just looking to do pretty much nothing but longs on the way up, because I think this is sort of the last stand for bears right here. You have this, and then you basically have a void straight towards about 4K, 4,100. I wouldn't be surprised if we flip, if we really flipped, 3,300, 3,400 to support. I wouldn't be surprised if we push back towards 4K. So yeah, I am taking a little bit off in this red box because just by nature, I've learned typically that untested demand or untested resistance right here, just like untested demand is a buy, untested supply or resistance is typically a short. So that's what I've been doing. I took off a little here, I'll take off a little more here, and I'll take off a little more here. And if it plows through, I'll just be looking to get longs. And that's it. And from these sells, if I do end up selling more in here, probably looking to buy at least 60 to 70% of that back in this blue box if I get the opportunity. I think that would probably be good. As far as lower time frame stuff, I'm really just more or less watching BTC, so I'm not going to really do anything on the spot here with ETH. I think that makes sense, selling this level, buying this level, and if this level flips to support, it's pretty much up only, I would say, and keep disable that red button for the most part until you get towards about 4K again. That would be my idea. I would not be surprised if we consolidate in here, eventually get a nice wick into here or something. People get super euphoric, probably reject, maybe one more test. That's where you look for your bearish divergence, right? You're making like an equal price, but you're making a lower on the RSI, something like that. And that's probably a good short back until at least like this low right here or into this support right here. And that's what I'll be doing for Ethereum. Okay, so now we will chat about maximizing your CT experience and how to remove a lot of the noise and keep a lot of the signal and cater CT to your to what what helps you the most. Okay, just give me 1 second. All right, so I've seen a lot of trends come and go, so to say, right? Back when I started, it was altcoins on, exchanges like Cryptopia and Trade Ogre, Stocks Exchange. There was a bunch of little exchanges that had a lot of altcoins, and it was really a time where you could just buy and there's like a 5x the next day or a 10x a couple days later. The days of Ether Delta, 20x's, 50x's. That's how my account started out. I was just a quote unquote gem caller, small capper. I think that's how a lot of people start out in crypto, because it's so lucrative and there's really an opportunity to turn nothing into something quite quickly. But it also comes with restraints, right? I could imagine that if there were some people who had been trading crypto already for years and they had a portfolio that was $1 million, they may have not been able to, follow all my calls, because there might not have been enough liquidity for them to throw, 30K or something at one of these low cap coins without just completely, crushing the sell side of the order book. So for those people, what should they do? Should they continue to just look at my analysis every day, or the specific coins that I'm calling every day, and we're cheering about our profits and whatnot? In my opinion, if they muted me, or if they muted the words or the tickers that I was talking about, I don't think that that's them being a hater. I think that that is them catering their feed to what they need to succeed the most with what they're working with, right? Whether it be a bigger portfolio size, whether they don't like the risk reward of my trades, whatever it is, if my content is not doing them a service, they could mute me or they could mute the tickers, etc. So I think that's a big thing, and it's very underutilized, and I think that's what creates a lot of the salt on CT, is that a lot of people follow a lot of different people, but not everyone is necessarily interested in the same thing. And crypto essentially is moving from, originally it was this thing that was all about Bitcoin and altcoins, or at least from when I joined, 2017, mid 2017. It was about crypto, it was about Bitcoin, it was about altcoins. And then, it turned into some of this decentralized exchange stuff. It turned into the ICO stuff. And you had all these different trends and phases come and go, and then it turned into the big season of, derivatives, which, still goes on to today. You have your people who are really just a big fan of margin trading derivatives. And, I think that's sort of where I fell into, what I enjoy the most. But I guess the point is that, when, I'll give you guys another example. When GameStop, the whole GameStop thing came, how many days, again, this isn't being a hater. This is me, saying, how many days am I supposed to listen to people cheering about their $100 turning into $3,000? Am I supposed to listen to that for 2-3 months on end? Just every single day? My feed is nothing but GameStop? Like, the reality is, what you need to do is you need to look and you need to assess what people are talking about. You should not shun it because a lot of people are talking about it, right? I'm not going to shun CryptoPunks just because a lot of people are talking about it, but I will mute CryptoPunks because I know a couple things right now. I don't believe the risk reward is there, right? You want to do your research into it before you decide to mute it or block the word, whatever you want to say on Twitter, right? So I know that for me, the risk reward is no longer there, okay? I also know that I can't really afford that, right? I'm not going to spend $1 million on a punk. It just doesn't, that's ridiculous to me. I'd much rather just own a nice home or something of that nature. There's no way I could ever see myself doing it. Now, if you told me, if it was $5,000, yeah, I might, be more inclined to get in there and be more okay with the risk reward. But for me, $1 million is simply too much risk. So what did I do? I muted them. And that's not being a hater. It's not that I dislike them. It's not that I disapprove of them. It's just that I don't need to hear about it every single day. It doesn't matter to me. All it is noise on my feed. Seeing all these people cheer, and I'm happy they're making their gains, but seeing all these people cheer about it a day in and day out, how is that helping me grow my portfolio and sharpen my skills? It's not. So you need to cater the feed to yourself. If you looked over the Bitcoin chart and for your trading style, you said, you know what, and this is probably unlikely, but if you said, you know what, there is no trade right now that I want to take on Bitcoin, and there's not going to be any trades that I want to take on it for the next week. Okay, so go mute the BTC ticker for 7 days. It's not the end of the world. Cater the feed to what is going to help you succeed in the data that is going to help you succeed. Okay, so I hope that sticks. Is that the biggest thing is that you need to look at the trends. You need to research and assess the trends. You need to give the trends a chance before you ever mute, right? You don't just mute because someone says something that you disagree with or that you don't like. That's not a reason to mute. You could think the whole NFT and JPEG thing is stupid, but if there's money to be made there, you don't mute the topic. You at least do your research first. You do your research and you say, hey, you know what? The risk reward isn't there for me. I don't like the project. I looked at the code and I don't like the project. Or these are too expensive for me and there's no chance I'm going to be buying them within the next 7 to 14 to 30 days. And you can go ahead and mute the word. You can mute the ticker, mute whatever you want. but cater the feed so that it's helpful for you, okay? And I think that's, like I said, one of the most underrated things. Once I started doing that, I started doing this years ago, but once I started doing this, I muted the whole stupid GameStop thing. There was just nothing for me there, right? I didn't have any options on GameStop. I did play something in the beginning, but I closed it so early, it was like whatever. I just wasn't a part of it. So why? And the risk reward, when the price went to $400 from $3 or whatever the hell it was, is there any risk reward for me there anymore? Of course not. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I just mute the topic because there's no point. It's not helping me. It's not helping me find my next trade. So why am I wasting my time and mental energy on it? Okay. Hopefully that's helpful, guys. As always, big shout out to Prime XBT for sponsoring these videos. Greatly appreciate everyone who tunes into these. Please, like, retweet the tweet, comment, give me your feedback, whatever you want to see. If you like some things I do, if you don't like some things I do, I have an open mind for the most part, as long as you're not insulting me for some reason. And I'm glad to hear and talk and see what you guys got to say. So thank you very much, and I'll catch you next week. Peace out.